Hello everyone, welcome back to Cheat Codes. Um, Today we're back in this little project because I just don't want to make a new project for everything, and it's just something simple. Uh, I just want to quickly go over some ways you can use functions. So this isn't going to be like an in-depth explanation or anything. I'm just going to show you a few examples and tell you how they work, so you can understand them. Again, this is nothing like complicated. I'm not going to go over how things work. Personally, I haven't like actually studied C sharp or anything like that. Like I can't give you an in-depth explanation if I wanted to, but I know how to use them. So we're just gonna go over a few simple ways. I'm not gonna go over some complicated ways. This is just gonna be for real beginners. Well, not even just beginners, just people who haven't really messed around with functions too much or have used them very sparingly. Uh, and I mean in a public way. Um, So all I did here is in the game manager, I just turned off the enemy spawner and the map handler so it won't get bigger or anything. As you can see, I've played, nothing happens. I can still move the player, but it's not going to do anything. But I made a particle system right here, and as you can see, it just does a burst. It's literally just, in our 2D roguelike series, we made a burst particle. This is literally basically just that. I haven't changed the color or anything like that. I haven't made it fancy. But you can see if I press spacebar, it does a burst. So that might be a little annoying visually, but yeah, that's what I made. So in my game manager, I have this is the script I'm going to be working with, particle boom. Obviously, it's just a name. I'm just making the particle. I have game object particle, and if I get key down space, I make the particle system play, so it plays a burst. So yeah, very simple. Sorry, that's not actually I meant to specifically make a function for this. Go. Cool. So this is what we're going to be tackling today. Play particle. So simply put, um, well, that's already how you use a function. Number one is you just call it in your actual thing. Um, Now normally you'd have this private if you're not going to call it from anywhere else. So this is just keeping things more organized, anything like that. So if you reference this or anything, you don't see it. Um, but now let's go over how you can reference this. So I can take my private and change it to public. Now I can reference this from other things in Unity and animation, stuff like that. We're going to go over all that in a second. So now instead I can go in another script. So I'm just choosing a random one here like the players. And then here I can say an update or something like that. This is how you do it. So game object or except it just however you're referencing the object. So I'm just going to do it on the fly like this. Find object of type particle boom. Get component particle boom. So it's just finding an object with a script attached to it called particle boom, and it's just getting it, and then play particle. Done. Just that easy. So in my update, it's gonna this will just have a CG. I'm not gonna show an example of every single one of these actually playing because yeah, this works. Um, so yeah, I'm just finding the object, getting its component, and I'm just playing the particle. Very simple. You'll see if I change this back to private, I'm going to get an error. This isn't going to work anymore. So that's way number one. Well, number two, sorry. And now let's go over another method. So let's say you want to give it a value. Let's say you want to call this function and it do something with a value. Like, if a player takes damage, stuff like that. That'd be very simple to set up. So in here, we're going to do float, boom, amount. Well, no, this should be an int. So int boom amount. So you put in the variable right here, and you call it what you want to call it. And now, when you call this, you need to pass it this value. So in here, I'm going to say 2. That's 212, so 2. So it's playing particle 2. Very cool. So now if I make this a for loop, I could say boom amount. I'll show you. So I'm calling it, and I'm giving it 2. So it's going to do 4 and it's going to play it twice. So let's see this in action. So I'm back in Unity, press play. If I press spacebar, you can see there's a lot more particles than there were earlier. Let me change this to a ludicrous number, something bigger. 5 times, it's gonna really boom. Oh, right, no, that's not how particles work. You can't do that. Okay, well, the particles were a bad example for this. Yeah, I'll just show it works. Print, go, boom. It'll print that 5 times. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I should have remembered that's not how particles work. I can't just... Anyways, I press spacebar, it loops 5 times. So that's how you'd do values like that. Again, you could do this publicly as well. So I can go to my player and I can, I can do this again and I can say 5 times. Or I can say, I can make an int. I can say int, private int, boom booms. And now I can replace this 5 with boom booms. So that's how it works. So you can make functions, you can pass some stuff. You generally do this for taking damage, stuff like that. So if you damage an enemy, he has a take damage function, and you pass through the amount of damage, and bada bing, bada boom, done. He takes damage. So that's another way you can do it. Again, these are all just very simple things. I'm just showing them because obviously if you just started things, you're not going to know these things, except if you watched a bunch of tutorials already. So, on to the last method, shall we? Let me just get rid of all this. Boop, 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 boop. Well, no, we're going to do 2 more methods. So, we're going to head back into Unity. And now we're going to make a button. So, UI. So, all you do is you have your canvas. So, I'm going to make a UI canvas. Just call it canvas. No one ever changes the name. You could choose how you want it to scale. Generally, I just leave my, well, no, actually, I changed mine to scale of screen size, so it properly holds values. But I'm just gonna leave it constant. That doesn't matter. That's not the point here. So in my canvas, I can make UI button. Oh, you need to import the text file, blah blah blah, all that. I'm gonna rename it to boom button. And as you can see, a button by default has a sprite. And I'm just gonna, it's a very ugly button, but this is just, yeah. So by default, it has a sprite, so an image renderer, and it has a text as a child. So, you can keep the text, you can boom, boom, there you go. I'm gonna get rid of mine, but you got your button, all that stuff. If you hover over it, it'll actually go a little more gray. You can change it so it's nice and visible. No, it's not the on mouse over. Oh, highlighted. There we go. Nice. So yeah, as you can see, the button works. You can click it. It's going to work as well. And all you're going to do is in here, so you got the on click, you're going to press plus, drag in whatever object has that script. So mine's the game manager. Cool. And you can see all these things attached to it. So all the components will show up here. So particle boom, you hover over it, and there it is. Play particle. That's if it's public. If you're not seeing this, it's not pub. You need to make it public. This needs to be public. If you don't see it, that's the only reason why. So there we go. Very cool. So now I can press this and it's going boom. Cool stuff. That's another method. Done. Very simple. With UI, there's a bunch of different buttons and ways you can do stuff. UIs are very cool, but we're not going to get into that today. Maybe in a future episode if someone asks. But yeah, there's another method. Very nice. On to the last one, animation. Now let's go on our game manager. Let's give it an animation, shall we? So we're not going to give it a visual animation. You're not going to be able to tell it has an animation. But that's not the point here. So we have a game manager. I'm going to say create clip, and I'm going to go animations, and I'm just going to say game manager animation. And so this is the one that's going to be playing by default when you press play. That's going to be there. It's going to loop by default, all that stuff, so we're just going to leave it. We want it to loop so we can show what's happening. So now in the animation, again, it's going to be an empty animation. There's not going to be anything visual. But what we do is we're going to add an event right here. I mean, no, sorry. We're going to need some keys. So we add a key for the scale right there. And let's add a key for the scale right there. Why not? Cool stuff. Actually, that's a little slow. Let's add a key for the animation, right? I mean, add a key here. Yeah. Cool. There's our animation done. You know, as you can see, look how pretty it is. It's doing nothing because that's what we want. And now let's say in the halfway point, I'm gonna right click right here. So in this, oh, you can right click. No. So I'm gonna right click in this bar, right? This little bar below the actual timeline. I'm gonna right click right here, add animation event, and now you'll see this little thingy. And so this will have any functions on scripts on this object. So any public functions. So you know, I have a bunch of scripts that are all showing up, but as you can see, no function selected. So we got the play particle, enemy spawning, spawn bunch. That's from the other scripts, but play particle. So if you press play, as you can see, it's playing particle every 15 milliseconds. So very cool. As you can see, it loops through like that. And if you just visualize this tempo right now, it's working. So, well, there we go. That's done. So there are a few ways of how you can reference things. Obviously, this way does not work with having a float it needs, stuff like that. If it needs something, stuff like the UI and I think aren't going to work except if you have those values like by default. Yeah, there's a few simple ways on how to use functions publicly, different methods. That it's nothing complicated. This tutorial was just genuinely for people starting out. Yeah, there's 5 different ways or 6. I didn't really keep count. I think it was 5. There's 5 ways to reference functions and use them, and how to use them. So very cool. One last way we're gonna do this. Just gonna delete the game manager. I'm gonna get rid of this animation. It never existed. One last way to do this. One last thing I'm going to show is you can have it as something. So I can say public bool check something. Right? Now this needs a return. So if you don't have a return, it's not going to work. So I need to return true. Cool. Or I need to return false. So let's check if the player's alive, shall we? So what are we going to do? We're going to have let's let the player die somehow. So public void die. Cool. And let's have let's say just in our map handler, we just need something to put this in. So let's say in our map handler, we're gonna have a public bool player alive. Yeah, equals false. Cool. And on our player, we're gonna say in start, we're gonna say game object dot find object of type map handler dot get component map handler dot player alive equals true at the start of the game. Cool, the player's alive right now at the start. And we're going to paste this into die, and it's going to be false. And in the update, we're going to say, we're just going to copy this because we just want to be quick with this, and I'm going to make it right click, die. Cool. This can be private. So very nice. Literally all this is a function that just on the start of the game, it's telling the map handler the player's alive. And when a player dies, it's telling it it's not alive. So let's check that. So in this bool, what we're going to do is we're going to say return game object, find object of type, map handler, dot get component map handler, dot play alive. So this function is returning this. So in the spacebar, let's just do it in here. Check something, and actually what we can do, I don't know if we can do this. I don't know. I'm not. Let me just see if that works actually. Yeah, so that works. So this is very cool. So you don't have a solid bool up here or something. It's actually a function. So you'd use this for like a ground check, anything else like that. This is for more complicated systems. This isn't really necessary. But yeah, so print check something. So this bool is going to return true or false. So at the start of the game, oopsie. Line 19, what the? Oh, right, the map handler's turned off, my bad. Map handler. Oh, I deleted the game object. Oh man, I'm so stupid. My bad. There we go. I turn on the map handler. It's gonna increase the map, but so if I press right click, no, not right click yet. If I press spacebar to do the boom, you see it's returning true. So our function's returning true. And now if I press right click and kill the player, he's still there. That's not killing the player. What the? Oh, wrong button, my bad. I think. Okay, so it's printing true. Okay, there we go. So the player's dead right now. Okay, it works. Oh, my bad. I just selected the wrong button. So as you can see, very simple. It returns true. I right click, the player's dead. I press spacebar, it's returning false. So yeah, that's the way you can use functions like that. They can have solid values, you know, fancy stuff. You're generally not going to use that too much, but you might. That's why I'm including it. So if you ever need that, just remember about it. It's there. If you need like a function or something, you can use that. It's very cool. There's a few ways you can. There's a few things these can take. I think they can take ints as well. Yeah, they can be an int. They can be a lot of things. So, but there won't be a void. They'll need a return. So this would be something like int value 1 equals 5. So I'm just making a little math sum right here. Int value 2 equals 7. Cool. And now what's it going to return? It's going to return, so the return is what this function's giving us. It's going to be value 1 plus value 2. Go. So now it's going to print check something again. And what's check something going to give us? It's going to give us a int value. So yeah, there's a few ways you can use functions that you wouldn't normally think of. So if I press spacebar now, it's going to print 12. So it's returning us that value. So use all of this to your own leisure. Make use of all of it as much as you can. It's very useful. The less stuff you have, that solid bits of code everywhere, like 50 bools that mean something, like, oh, a grounded check. No, just have a private bool, grounded, and it just returns. Well, here you would just have a little function. You'd have a physics physics 2D raycast and check the ground and return it like that. You don't need to have a 50 bools or a bunch of ints in here that are different values. You can just have it all in one function. It does make things a lot more efficient and easier to read for other people. So if you need help from someone and they're a little more experienced, they'd generally prefer this over a bunch of yeah. I mean, I struggle for myself. I normally have, like, in a player script, I'll have this whole top section is just a bunch of values. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm just showing these things just so you know they're there, because I didn't even know about this till like 3 months ago. So yeah, there's a lot of things you generally don't know about. Um, so I hope this helps anyone that is struggling with functions, having any errors. Yeah, just things should be private when they aren't being referenced by another object, and things should be public if you're trying to reference them in any way at all that's not in the script. Anyway, animations, UI, anything. Just remember that you're gonna get errors if you don't have it public. Um, and just remember, some of those won't work if you have values in them. Like, if you put an int in here and you try to reference it from UI, it's not going to work because it needs an int. So yes, hope this helps you guys. Let me know if there's anything you guys need, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.